Today we're ranking every single evolution in the game from worst to best. And for the first time in many months, there is something other than the Goblin Drill at the worst rank in the game, and this is the Witch. So in case you didn't know, they killed the Witch because now it only heals from its own skeletons. What in the hell would I do with that? It's the worst Evo in the game. It just is. Even if I wanted to use a Witch in my deck, I'd just use another Evo because my Witch is going to stay alive for an extra... Is 6 seconds too generous? I feel like it is. But he's not escaping very far. The Goblin Drill evolution remains at 34 from last month because it is pointless. The Goblin Drill as itself is already a really strong card, and then the evolution just doesn't really end up giving you extra damage in the majority of circumstances, because most people who stop a drill will counter the whole thing with the same drill counter. And drill plus snowball is one of the best combos in the game, and you just have other evos you'd rather use than the Goblin Drill because it barely ever gets you extra damage. Evo Wizard! This guy, unfortunately, god damn! This guy, unfortunately, doesn't do too much compared to other ranged evos because, one, the normal wizard sucks, so you have to play the normal wizard, which really sucks because he sucks. And the wizard oftentimes for 5 elixir is just not worth 5 elixir. You'll get the same value for 4 elixir or 3 elixir in certain circumstances, and the wizard just underperforms constantly, although it's cool to like put a shield under a minion horde in certain circumstances. I gotta stop saying that. The Electro Dragon is good in very particular beatdown decks. Once again, for the 3rd straight, 4th straight, 5th straight month, the beatdown decks really suck. The E-Drag decks, Golem is horrible. I don't even know if it finished top 200 last season. E-Golem is pretty bad as well, and even the good E-Golem decks are just curse abusing, machine abusing decks now. They don't even run E-Drag. So E-Drag doesn't really have a home. In his home, he's pretty good, but the problem is the home sucks. Next up is the Bomber, and he has fell off a lot. I remember when he was used in a bunch of decks because he's one of the early evolutions. But, I mean, the Bomber just kind of... it just got replaced. Like, people just put a Bomber in the deck because there wasn't another Evo, but as there's been more Evos, now more decks have a use for a different Evo that's better than the Bomber. The Bomber's cool, but to be honest, on defense, he doesn't do anything special, and now since he can't hit anything twice, there's not much difference aside from a very rare, like, offensive occasion where you'll be able to get any different value out of this Bomber than the normal Bomber. So that's why whenever you see Bombers, which already isn't very common, they're just normally the normal version. It's a Furnace meta. And on top of that, the barbs already weren't very good. So here they are. they don't... Normal barbs are ass too. These ones at least survive Fireball, which is really cool. But the barbarians just don't have a place in the meta right now. Aren't good against Furnace, which is, you know, the whole thing. I'm assuming the Furnace gets nerfed to a reasonable level where it's still broken, but it's not 90% of games. But the barbs, they're not usable. They don't do anything for you. They don't deal with range cards. They don't deal with splash cards, both of which are a ton in the meta. They don't deal with bait cards, which was last meta. They just don't have a home right now. This is the Furnace's fault. The Goblin Barrel is not the 29th worst evolution in the game, or I guess it would be the 6th worst. It's not that bad of an Evo, but Furnace completely hard countered and killed bait. So Goblin Barrel is really bad right now, and that's a subset of Furnace being the most broken thing we've ever seen. And if the Furnace was like balanced, I think Goblin Barrel will probably move up like 10-15 ranks, but as of right now, bait is just completely unplayable. Don't even think about it. The Hunter has a use in 1 deck. Actually, make that 2 decks. 3 Musketeers doesn't count as a deck, so 1.5 decks. And the deck that he was used in now uses Furnace, which is not very surprising. So he is used in half a deck. The Hunter overall, not that bad, but I mean, again, in this sort of Furnace meta, he's dog water. So the Diddy Cage cannot pull in Fire Spirits. And on top of that, there's also like I love this evolution. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, I love it. The practical use of you getting to use this card, it just never happens. And even when it does happen, it usually just gets spelled. You could still win the game because of that, but it's just the evolution doesn't feel like it does that much often. Mortar didn't get nerfed directly, but the deck it was used in got like 4 nerfs. 2 Spear Goblin nerfs, Skelly Barrel nerf, and something else that I can't remember right now. So it's just a precautionary move down, especially since Mortar is really distracted by Fire Spirits. So Dark Goblin got a rework, and to be honest, he's pretty good, but he also suffers from dying to log, not getting, like, okay, the Dark Goblin is a really good card, there's almost not a need to run the Evo Dark Goblin because of how good the normal one is. When in your deck, you probably have better Evos. Although the Dark Goblin Evo can kill Beatdown, Beatdown is already dead right now, unless you count P.E.K.K.A. Gob Giant, but that's like, it's just, we don't count that. Also, bait is horrible, so the Dark Goblin is also getting nerfed because of that. We've got the Pecker. The Pecker is not good versus Fire Spirits. It's a common denominator in today's ranking, and also the P.E.K.K.A. being used in P.E.K.K.A. Goblin Giant, and outside of that, nothing else doesn't help its case either, but there are a couple successful P.E.K.K.A. Bridge Spam decks, and also P.E.K.K.A. Goblin Giant is pretty strong, so it's just a decent place for the P.E.K.K.A. to land. Evos Skeletons. Now, these guys, they're 1 elixir, so the times they get value isn't like a ton, but if you're playing smart and you're playing conservatively and you're spell baiting, you can oftentimes get a ton of value out of the skeletons or apply pressure with the skeletons, and although they're not super flashy and they won't oftentimes look like they're doing that much, you can really force an opponent into a series of plays with the skeletons. They're not that bad. They're not that bad at all. It's just you have to really set them up to get any value out of them, and it's not, you know, something that you need to do for the top Evos. So Royal Giant was horrible last season. I'm kind of using a mix of last season since it's like 2 days into the new season, as well as, I mean, it's being used with Furnace. It's like, okay, it can beat a couple of the Furnace decks, so that's cool. But the Royal Giant Evo, although it's decently strong most of the time, last meta it was pitiful, so that's why it's, you know, maybe pitiful is, it's weak. It was weak. It was pretty weak, so that's why it lands down here, even though it's typically been a good win condition. Mega Knight! This guy is really annoying for the most majority of like newer players or early ranked players, and it just isn't an issue anywhere outside of that. It's really easy to stop. It's not good in the Furnace meta. It doesn't have really good top ladder decks, and the decks it is good in really get abused by other stuff in the meta, so Mega Knight's just not really in a good spot unless you're inside a certain trophy range. I guess most people are, but if you know how to counter the Mega Knight and you don't get, you know, force feed your opponent Mega Knight value, you won't have a problem with this card. Battle Ram is one of the highest win percenting cards in the gets. I know that's not correct grammar in the game as far as evolutions go, and this is because it's not really used that much, and the decks it's used in is very specific. Like, you don't see anybody just walking around with the Evil Battle Ram. You only see it in specific bridge spam decks, and those decks are pretty good, and the players who play those decks are usually pretty good because the deck isn't that boosted. So it's got good stats, but realistically, it's not a plug and play Evo that you just fit in any deck. Kind of have to build a bridge spam deck around it, so it hurts its versatility and therefore its ranking, even though it's decently strong. Yeah, one word, Furnace is in the meta. Well, that's not one word, but Evo Tesla is not half bad. Expo didn't do well last season, so that hurt this ranking, but also a new like drill and miner meta just became a thing overnight, or I guess it wasn't overnight, but it was overnight like a week ago, and so Tesla has been used in those cycle decks again, and it's been pretty solid. You can't complain. The Tesla is just a decent building, and it oftentimes gets pretty good value. The Firecracker did just get a nerf, so now it knocks back less. This does make it better on offense, but also easier to kill, so it stays close to the same spot it was last ranking, but I think Firecracker has gotten better, like as Hog has gotten better. So if Hog isn't good, then Firecracker falls off a lot, because that's the most popular deck with Firecracker in it, obviously not counting, you know, if you're within the 7,000 to 15,000 metal range, it will literally be every game. But hey, now it's easier to kill, so there's that. Muskie is a solid Evo who's able to snipe most things and really be good in Balloon Cycle, but the problem is it's really hard to use outside of Balloon Cycle. Balloon Cycle is really good. Not sure how it's going to do in a Furnace meta, but Balloon Cycle is really good, and oftentimes you're going to be able to see success in that one deck. But I can't put Musketeer higher because she is easy to block if you know she's coming, and it's just not a card I'd recommend leveling up for newer players, just because it's too inconsistent and it oftentimes won't yield the results you want unless you're really, you know, thinking about how to use it properly. Wall breakers are a really solid Evo. If left unchecked, they do massive damage, and they can also be used as like a mini royal delivery, mini log type thing to get out of a pinch on defense. So ultimately, they're pretty versatile, pretty cheap, and you know, you can't go wrong with Evo wall breakers. Ice Spirit fell off a lot. It's kind of just because decks that Ice Spirit was in have other Evos they can use, And to be honest, it's not that bad. It's Ice Spirit's still one of the best cycled evos, but also the Furnace meta. So Ice Spirit isn't too good at dealing with the Furnace, if you can imagine. Also, the Ice Spirit did get a nerf, the base Ice Spirit, so that affects the Evo Ice Spirit as well, and obviously it's less effective now than it was before. Zap is an extremely well-rounded spell that unfortunately doesn't work in a vast majority of decks, so that's why it's lower than it, could be. Of course, there's really cool interactions like Fireball Evo zapping a Queen, Fireball Evo zapping an E-Drag, Arrows Evo zapping, you just Evo zapping minion hordes and stuff. It's late. But yeah, Zap is just, it's not feasible in things like Drill and things like Miner and other decks, cycle decks like that, or you'll probably just use Log or Snowball. So although Zap falls short of Snowball, it's still pretty solid. Gob Giant is still pretty strong, pretty boosted, and used in like 3 decks. You've got like 3 viable Goblin Giant decks. Goblin Giant P.E.K.K.A is still untouched even after, I mean, I guess they nerfed reworked the Rage a little bit, and they nerfed the Chef. It didn't really affect that much. Still one of the easiest decks to play in the game's history. It's really broken. In the Furnace meta, I don't know how it does. Probably just slap a Furnace in there instead of like a Goblin machine. You'll be fine though. So Lumberjack is actually extremely strong on top ladder. I understand Golem's not on top ladder, but he's able to be used in Giant, which is really good even with the Furnace, because you can use the Furnace and do good against the Furnace. He's good in Giant, he's good in Golem, he's good in Lumberloon. I get that Lumberloon and Golem aren't amazing decks, but for the majority of ladder they are. And the Lumberjack, even at 2 cycles, is still going to be decently effective. Obviously he's going to be less of a threat because he doesn't become any more or less of a threat, but you have to time him properly so that you're not just wasting the Evo Lumberjack. And I guess that can be a little bit hard to do sometimes, but he's still a very strong Evo. Yes, I get that these suck on top ladder, but that's not what we're looking at right now. The Evo recruits are beyond brain dead. You put him down, you split a Gob Gang maybe, you put him with the newly buffed Zappies. Yeah, they're not going to be good against a Furnace, but hey, recruits, assuming the Furnace gets a touch up, will still be dominant, and will still, I mean, I've seen them kill Furnaces if they're charging, so they're still really good, really easy to play, really easy to learn, and that easiness makes them, really, also versatility. Maybe you could fit them in quite a few brain rot decks, makes them really high ranked Evo. Executioner is still as strong as ever, good against Fire Spirits, which is important in this meta, and single-handedly can defend almost any deck in the game paired with the right deck because of just his strength, his pushback. He's also really good on offense. A bunch of interactions change since he gets his bonus damage when he's close to a unit. The Executioner is just a great card in general, and he makes defense just easy mode. Archers are really strong even after their rework and are able to turn the entire game around if potentially you catch an opponent lacking. I think Archers did get a pretty decent nerf. They're not gonna like one tap or full counter the things that they were countering before, which is huge. So maybe this is just too high of a ranking. Maybe they'll fall a lot. But as of how they've been in the last few weeks, they've been really strong. So they remain up here at number 8. Although I mean I could see them falling off if maybe Expo falls off as well. But hey, for right now they're still fairly strong. And hey, they deal with Fire Spirits. The Knight is really strong, a jack of all trades, extremely versatile. He's going to be able to tank crazy types of stuff on defense. He's going to be able to buy you time from when you maybe go down Elixir and you're able to use an Evo Knight to bail you out and stall for time. He's really, really strong, effective, fits in so many decks, and he's always going to be, a cheap counter to a lot of cards in the game. So, and that's even as his normal version, which makes him one of the best Evos in Clash Royale. Yes, I am biased because I play or have played the Evo Inferno Dragon. I didn't finish with it last season. I was playing Mega Minion Tombstone instead, but Inferno Dragon when charged up is nearly impossible to deal with if you force out the reset, or they don't have a reset, or they misplay their reset, or you have to be very, very perfect to defend against the Evo Inferno Dragon, and the majority of players aren't going to do that. So if you protect your Evo Inferno Dragon and you set up a nice push, you will literally win the game because the opponent has nothing they can do. Skeleton Barrel is still extremely strong, even though we got a little nerf. The problem is right now I'm again ranking this based off of, let's say Evo Furnace gets nerfed in the coming week or two. because right now a Skelly Barrel into a Furnace is obviously really bad, but Skelly Barrel was one of the best evos in the game last season and is still dominant, is still good on defense, is still insane pressure on offense, and I guess Fire Spirits ruin it, but hey, I'm going to assume that the Furnace won't be at 90% use rate in a little bit. Valkyrie is one of the most underrated evos in the game. I'd hope that most people see how strong she is, but I don't know if they do. She's really good on offense, really good on defense, and she's able to bail you out of certain situations, give you defensive capabilities your deck might not have had, and really just opens up a lot of opportunity for you to play your deck differently and win hard counters with it. I don't think she needs a nerf necessarily, but you know, she's just such a versatile card, and her Evo works in so many different ways that she's always going to be one of the best Evos in the game. Cannon, yes, we are Cannon Glazers, is still one of the strongest Evos in Clash Royale. It's just ability to just nuke things from the other side of the map while also being the best defensive building in the game is really hard to top. And the Cannon is also going to be able to be used on offense, be used on defense against spammy decks. It can be used to knock back things. It can be used in so many ways that you shouldn't be able to use your Cannon in, and remains a top 3 Evo for like the 3rd or 4th straight month. Yes, it is finally moved up to number 2, the Evo Giant Snowball. This thing is ridiculous, especially even after the nerf. The nerf is not that big of a deal, but with Drill, if you haven't faced Drill Snowball, hey man, I envy you, because this is such an annoying combo to go up against. And not only is it great on offense in decks like Giant Graveyard, decks like Drill, it's also great on defense. You can literally bail yourself out of defense. You can be super aggressive and then bail yourself out on defense with the stall that the Evo Snowball does. Groups everything up, which makes your splash units do better, and then also at the same time stalls you for time. You can't ask for a better defensive Evo. Furnace Royale. Nobody didn't see it coming. Everybody, if you've gone more than 3 games without seeing a Furnace, I don't know. It's the most broken thing they've released since well, the last most broken thing they've released. So yeah.